All right, everyone. So let's talk about the strange occurrences taking place surrounding Joe Biden. The strange details, really, surrounding Joe Biden. For one thing, Joe Biden has not been seen in the past 5 days or so, which has led to much talk on the internet about whether or not the president is dead or alive. And there have been a lot of people saying, we demand proof that the president is alive. Where is he? Where is this old man? Where is the old timer? Where is this doddering elderly man?
But I want to go back to your previous statement, Dana, about not seeing President Biden today. I think as you think about what has transpired today since 1:45 p.m., not physically seeing him even address a camera in Delaware, let alone an Oval Office statement like LBJ did when he dropped out in March of 1968, it is disconcerting, isn't it?
Brett, they didn't even release a White House still photograph. Nothing. So I hope he's fine. But you could forgive people for wondering if we are really living Weekend at Bernie's right now. Like, proof of life, please.
And all of this discourse on whether or not the president is dead or alive has been fixated on his signature. Specifically, the signature on the letter in which Biden announced his dropping from the race. The signature does not look like the standard Joe Biden signature, which has led to discussion on Twitter/X on whether or not the man is dead or alive. It is quite strange, I must say, because when you look at the recent footage, the most recent videos of Joe Biden walking around, the man does not look healthy. You see him walking up the stairs towards Air Force One, and he is blatantly not healthy. There have been numerous medical experts who have spoken to the media, either anonymously or not anonymously, and they have all been saying pretty much the same thing. It is quite obvious that Biden has not been very healthy. He has been actually very unhealthy, and he has shown blatant signs of neurological impairment, Parkinson's, dementia. You name your neurological degenerative disease, Biden has signs of neurological impairment. It's very obvious. And people have been saying this for years. This is nothing new. The doctors come out and say, oh, yeah, he's suffering from neurological impairment. Is it it might be Parkinson's. It looks like Parkinson's. There is one doctor. His name is Mr. Pitts. I forgot his first name. But Dr. Pitts, a very funny name, has stated the man has Parkinson's, and he has stated that he is 100% assured of that. He's 100% certain that Biden has Parkinson's. Well, it's very obvious the man is going through some sort of neurological dysfunction, impairment.
You noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Neurological disease. It's very obvious, and people knew this when Biden was running the first time. It was very, very obvious. Very, very obvious. People were saying that Biden had dementia when he was running against Trump in Trump's second campaign for the presidency. So this is not surprising at all. The man is very close to death. He's 81 years old. He is breaking down, cognitively breaking down. And he got COVID while he was campaigning in Las Vegas. Now, COVID for a man who was in his 20s or 30s, not a big deal. But COVID for a man who is 81 years old with neurological impairment, that is a big deal. It has been shown that COVID can damage one's cognitive abilities. And so for a man to have already a condition of neurological impairment and then get COVID, it's quite drastic. It's obviously not good. Obviously not good, for lack of better words. And there was a post that was made by Charlie Kirk stating that he got a call from someone supposedly close to Vegas Metro because Biden got COVID while he was campaigning in Vegas. So Charlie Kirk gets a phone call, supposedly from someone close to Vegas Metro. This is what Charlie Kirk recounted on his Twitter/X account. And this person told him that Secret Service had to shut off certain roads so as to allow easier transportation of the president to a university hospital. It's obvious that Biden had a medical emergency. An 81-year-old man getting COVID is a medical emergency, especially if he has cognitive impairment, neurological impairment. Now, they say that he is in his beach house somewhere in Delaware, Rehoboth, Delaware. But that signature, that does not look like his signature. So it's not really surprising that people are talking about whether or not he's dead or alive. And it would not be surprising to find out that Biden, in fact, has passed away. But they're saying that he is recovering, and they're saying that he's going to talk with the Israeli prime minister. They say that he's going to address the nation. We'll see. We shall see. The truth will unfold by itself. So let's say that Biden dies and the media comes out and says, all right, Biden's dead, COVID killed him, it's very tragic. Then they're going to say, all right, everyone, make way for President Kamala Harris, the first black woman president. And they're going to be pushing some sort of woke rhetoric. She's the first African-American woman, first woman who is African-American, but also American South Indian, and now she's the president. This is historic. And then the right wing would come out and say, what the hell are you morons talking about? The Middle East is in a disaster. America is in a disaster. The border is a disaster. And you want to tell us about how we have the very first woman, African-American, South Asian, Indian president, Jamaican president? Who gives a damn? And the Republicans would see it as an opportunity. Now, much of the country would be devastated. They would say, oh my God, Kamala Harris is president. Oh my goodness, this is going to be awful. But the Republicans would see it as an opportunity because they'll say amongst each other, they'll say, well, Kamala Harris is going to be president for at least the next 6 months or so. Now we have the opportunity to find all of the ammunition against her because right now they're saying she would be a terrible president. But if she becomes the president, in the case of Biden being dead, the Republicans could say, now we can see how terrible of a president she would be if we elect her to be the president for the next 4 years. And then you would have Donald Trump popping up saying, Kamala Harris is the worst president in American history. She has done more damage in just a number of months than what Joe Biden could ever do in a number of years. It's a real disaster. She's very evil, I tell you. Very evil. A very evil woman. She's a witch, I tell you. She's a real witch. She has smoke coming out of her mouth, I tell you. It would just be absolutely crazy. But Kamala Harris being president for a number of months because of Joe Biden being dead, that would be the perfect opportunity for the Republicans to show everyone how terrible she would be if we elect her to be the president for the next 4 years. The thing is that it's quite obvious that they are trying to pump up Kamala Harris. They're trying to boost up her image. They got the old man away. He's out of the way. He's gone. He's out of the way. So now they're boosting up Kamala Harris. And Ted Cruz made a statement that I think is true. He said, listen, do not underestimate Kamala Harris. Don't think that it's going to be easy for Trump to win against Kamala Harris. And Ted Cruz went on to say that while he does believe Trump is going to win, it's not going to be easy. And I agree. We should not underestimate anyone. One thing that you learn in life, I was going to say quickly, but for some people it takes a while to learn this. One thing that you learn is that you never underestimate anyone. So don't underestimate anyone, including Kamala Harris. The thing is that it's not going to be easy for Kamala Harris to campaign against Donald Trump. It is not going to be easy. It's not. Why is this? Well, one of the biggest issues is immigration. And Kamala Harris falls flat. She totters in the face of the subject matter of immigration. Remember what happened a few years ago? She did an interview and she was asked about the border because Biden supposedly commissioned her to investigate the source of the problems with the border. And she did this interview stating what? Well, I've never been to Europe, because the guy asked her, well, you've never been to the border. And what did Kamala Harris say? She said, well, I've never been to Europe.
Put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
And it just made her look very silly and very ridiculous. So when it comes to immigration, Kamala Harris falls very, very flat. Now, remember what has been happening in Chicago. There has been a lot of talk about immigration in Chicago. Texas has been trolling the Democrats by shifting migrants to blue areas, migrants to Chicago. And now you have all these people in Chicago who have been complaining about all the migrants from Venezuela and other areas. So immigration, huge issue, really a big, big fat issue. And that is where Donald Trump really, really shines. And another thing is that Kamala Harris is not as good of a speaker as Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is good at oratory. The man has, you see, I didn't really notice this until recently. Donald Trump has a rhythm when he talks. He has a rhythm when he talks. We will go down. We will fix the problem with the border. You have my word on that. Kamala Harris, she's evil. She's an evil witch. She's a witch. I was going to say another word, but I won't say it because we have children around. But she is evil. There's a rhythm in his voice, right? And when you have a rhythm in your voice, when you're not just monotone, when you're not doing the same thing all the time when you're talking, when you're not going down one movement and you have multiple movements in your speech, sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, and then you pause, and then you raise your hand, and your hand is quite tense, and it looks like you're about to smack somebody, but you don't. And then you complain about the baby crying, and you say, no, I love babies. I love babies. What are you talking about? No, I was kidding. Get that baby out of here. Right? When you have a rhythm, it makes you more interesting to listen to. When you don't have a rhythm, when you're monotone, or when you have the same contour, it's not as interesting. Kamala Harris is made fun of because of her way of talking. And one of the things that people really love to poke fun at is her laugh. And plus, and this has been a meme that has been going around town, the unburdened meme, the whole unburdened meme, unburdened by what has been. And she repeats this all the time, and she's trying to come across as some sort of a visionary. She's trying to have some sort of a legacy. She's trying to have her name implanted in history somehow. So she has this saying that she loves to repeat, and she has repeated this tons of time. It goes something like this: unburdened by what has been, unburdened by what has been, unburdened by what has been.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be
unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be
unburdened by what has been.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
Who we can be, unburdened by who we have been.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
Where we can be, unburdened by where we have been, and unburdened by where we are right now.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been? What could be unburdened by what had been?
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been?
Before we vote on your request for parole, we do have some questions. Do you think you'll be able to adjust to life on the outside?
Allow me to partologize myself. Suppositorily speaking, my incarceration has forced, you understand, the ventilation of, shall I say, my dairy air. And upon my discharge, I will ejaculate my mind to the prophylactic of the bowels of society.
But how would you support yourself, Mr. Bates, considering that your reading comprehension has gone down every year since you've been in prison?
A very vaginative proposition, my man. That is to say, prostitution pertaining to the cotex, you understand, of the argument. I myself have imminentized my liquidation, therefore, ergo, i.e., that is the instigation, which is excessive cleavage, shall we say. So, let me clarify, or, excuse me, clitify. In other words, I'd probably teach.
All right, if there are no further questions, let us put this to a vote. All those in favor of parole vote aye.
Aye.
All those opposed vote nay.
Nay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bates. Is there anything further you'd like to say?
Let me be venereal in my requisition for this body of congregation, see, for the personal gratification of my urethras. As the Greek philosopher Massengill once dictated, lickus my proboscis. Undouche me.
And Donald Trump is going to tell her, listen, you are going to be very burdened, Kamala. I assure you of that. She's going to be very burdened. She says all this talk about unburdened by what has been. I will assure you, Kamala, you will be very burdened, and you are not going to be unburdened by what I'm about to do to you. That you have my word. I mean, it's something like that, right? And it's just hilarious, but it's very silly, because when you make it obvious that you're trying to do something, for some reason it just doesn't come out strong. I don't know why that is. It's some sort of a law that God wrote and he etched it in the eternal stone of universal law. But for some reason, anytime us humans want to do something, but we make it obvious that we're trying to do something, and it doesn't get executed as sharply and as efficiently. So if I'm trying to, it's the same thing with humor. If I'm trying to make you laugh, you're not going to laugh. But if I'm talking in a way where I'm not really trying to make anyone laugh, I'm just talking and I sound really natural, for some reason, everyone just starts laughing. It's the same thing with horror. If I'm trying to scare you, well, okay, well, the gig is up, right? You have been exposed. Your whole plot has been known by everyone, and it's just not effective. But when something happens and it's not trying to scare you, but it just happens naturally and it's naturally scary, then for some reason people are horrified. I don't know why this is, but it is what it is. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So there you go. And it's not going to be easy for Kamala. In fact, there was a quote from a guy. His name is Steve Israel. He is a former Democrat congressman. And he said, quote, Immigration is a soft spot for Democrats in those battleground areas. This is a very salient issue for voters living in those suburbs. Fairly or unfairly, they believe that our immigration system is not managed strongly enough. So immigration is going to be a huge issue, and that is where Donald Trump dominates. Another thing also is the whole trans thing. Kamala Harris is a big pro-trans person. In fact, there's a video of her on Twitter where she says, hello, I'm Kamala Harris. I go by the pronouns she and her.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
And it just sounds so freaking stupid. Because why? Because everyone knows you're a woman. It's very obvious you're a woman. Everyone knows you're a woman. Everyone knows the stuff that people... I'm about to say a dirty joke, but I won't go there. But everyone knows that you're a woman. It's very, very obvious. Why do you have to say she, her? It's just stupid and silly. And it also bespeaks of the trans agenda, which wants to manipulate reality. That's what the whole trans thing is about. It's about manipulating reality. It's about forcing people to abide by delusions, because you have these people who are delusional. They say that they are women when they're really men, or you have men. You have women who say that they're men when they're really women, and then you have people who come out and they say, "I am a two-spirit animal, witch doctor, whatever bullshit," and then they want to force everyone to address them by their delusional title, their delusional appellation. And we cannot allow that, because that is complete. That's despotism. That's tyranny. That is the tyranny of delusion. That's what that is. The imperialism and the despotism of delusion, and we cannot stand for it. But Kamala Harris, really, really big pro-trans agenda person. And the whole trans thing is extremely unpopular, and that is also something that she is going to be attacked for, rightfully so. And then you have the whole thing with Israel. This is not so much of a big issue for the general population as it is for Arab voters in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania. But it is important because the Arab vote, the Middle Eastern vote in those states like Pennsylvania and Michigan are quite important. Now, Donald Trump, very, very popular in Pennsylvania right now. If you look at the latest information about Trump's popularity in Pennsylvania, he I think he was 7 points above Biden. This is before Biden left the race. But again, this was in Pennsylvania. This is in the state where he was almost murdered. So the failed assassination attempt definitely helped in his marketing and definitely boosted up his popularity. Martyrdom, almost being killed, that definitely helps your profile for a lot of people. And also the Arab vote. Arab people, Middle Eastern people, they do not like Biden because of his support for Israel. Trump's a pro-Israel guy, but also Trump has stated that Netanyahu needs to stop killing people and he needs to wrap things up. So maybe that'll help him. I do know that there is a substantial favor for Trump amongst Middle Eastern voters, but we have to see what's going to happen with that. And yeah, again, I'm not saying this is going to be easy for Donald Trump. I think Ted Cruz is right. Do not underestimate anyone, but this is not going to be easy for Kamala. And still, Donald Trump is coming. He is really showing himself as the stronger opponent in this match. That's what I'll say to that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this whole thing. It's quite crazy and very strange what's happening. And yeah, that's it. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.